Hey guys, Control here, and today's segment of Wild Basics is going to be featured around Secret Mage. So Secret Mage in Wild is fairly similar to Secret Mage in Standard. The big difference being that we don't run huge top end cards like Firelines Portal and Pyroblast. Instead, we have our good little buddy here, Forgotten Torch. I actually don't want Flamewakers in this deck. So let's take the Flamewakers out and put two more cards that we actually like in the deck. Korean Mage. This is good that we're going over it. It's actually kind of funny because Flamewaker can be used in a more burn-heavy style of the deck. However, I prefer to play a secret-heavy version. It's kind of funny that I instinctively put this in, probably because I was looking at Explosive Urns and Torch, and it was sitting in the middle there. Nice little catch there, but yeah, so it's fairly similar to the standard version of the deck. But, you know, we got cards like Loatheb, and I mean, the main difference for me is just basically Mad Scientist. That is a way to pull secrets from your deck, which is super nuts. We do still just run 6 though. I don't really like going above and beyond that. And this version of the deck, I actually am kind of giving an ode to kind of my start with streaming and content creation, because when I first began streaming and content creating, one of the decks that I actually fell in love with was a Temple Mage deck that actually revolved around running ice blocks. So it wasn't very meta to do at the time, but I loved doing it, and it actually got me to top 100 a couple times on Standard Ladder way back when. But basically I did that, and I just figured that'd be kind of fun. So if some of you guys have been watching me for a really long time, you're going to remember the good old Chinese Temple Mage with the ice blocks. So that's what we're messing around with today. Just one, not two. I think one's more than enough. But back to the cool wild cards. One that I would really like to highlight in this deck specifically is just Forgotten Torch, because this card is nuts, man. It's in combination 6 mana deal 9 damage, which isn't super good, but it adds a card into your deck. And when you play All or Nothing in the later stages of the game, you can almost always guarantee you're going to draw both your Roaring Torches. And it's just a great way to seal the game after you know, push 10 to 15 minion damage in the early game. You draw All or Nothing, or you just try and draw Natural Burn to close out games. It's one of the key cards that really does get you there. Other key cards in this deck, obviously, being stuff like the Mana Worm, your cool 1-drop that just wins a game sometimes on turn 3 or 4. And then, you know, probably the most hated card of the deck, Alanath. Stupid card that draws you your whole deck and just increases your win rate significantly when it's drawn and played. But, I mean, Secret Mage without Alanath is a pretty mediocre deck. With Alanath, it can compete with some of the more degenerate decks in the format, like Big Priest and Naga Warlock. Anyways, that's a pretty good intro for the deck. We're going to hop into some gameplay, and I'm going to run you guys through how to play Secret Mage in Wild. COD in 2009? 2009 was when everybody played Call of Duty. 2009 was like the year to play COD, man. Okay, got a Warrior, not necessarily that good for us right off the bat. I mean, Apprentice is okay. Frostbolt's also okay. Problem with both these cards is neither of them are really that good. Used together, they'll beat like Bloodsail Raider, but I'm just losing to his 1-drops. I think I really want like Arcanologist or Mana Worm. I feel relatively hesitant about throwing away a 2-drop, but especially on the coin, there's just cards that are better. Apprentice is not a card that shines in this matchup, really. Even like Frostbolt's fine, but he's not on the coin. If he was on the coin, I would be more happy to keep it, I guess you could say, because then you could just like Frostbolt the coin to a Frothing Berserker and then ping it. But since we're all on the coin ourselves, it just seems like it loses so much value, and I'd actually like to be able to have some initiative in this matchup. And having the Mana Worm definitely does give that. It's kind of funny because on the coin is usually when you're able to play a lot more reactively, but specifically against Warrior decks in Wild, I don't think it's necessarily the way you want to play, because Pirate Warrior is a deck that requires some setup usually. Control Warrior always going Cannon Coin 1 next turn. Either way, I'm probably just going to do this and ping his face. Really don't just like Frostbolting there, because again, we don't know what he's playing yet. Kind of an awkward hand, man. We're Secret Mage with all the secrets. So this turn, now we've got nothing going on. Oh, that's such a beautiful draw, man. Oh my god. Now we can just send Burn Face, man. This is not going to be a game where we play super heavily for board, I don't think, because he's playing Control Warrior. We're just going to be looking to drag stuff towards his face. Like this turn for me? Probably a Fireball Face. Most definitely a Fireball Face. Almost no critical thinking involved. And that's kind of the thing with this deck. When you draw All or Nothing, most of the decisions are out the window as far as, you know, resource management goes, because you're inevitably going to be drawing your whole deck in the next X amount of turns, right? So you just do this, you coin the All or Nothing, and then, well, next turn I'm probably going to play a Secret, right? I go ahead, do that, and then I drag some spells towards my opponent's face. I develop a board, say, hey, deal with it. Then I develop another board and say, hey, deal with it. And then what I do after that is develop another board and say, hey, deal with it. And that's kind of just what happens over and over and over again here. I might actually want to Frostbolt that. I don't feel like I care if he draws, though, is the thing. I think we just want like one of Mana Orb, Arcanologist, Cabal Lackey, and Frostbolt his face. Explosive Runes is quite strong here. This Frostbolting face to deny the weapon here. It's also quite weird for him because he doesn't necessarily know what Seeker that is, so he might not feel comfortable to just brawl here. Not that it's even really a board that he would want to brawl, but any minion sticking that I can push face damage with basically means that I win because I already have 15 damage in hand right now. Which is absurd. Dry Whisker is good. It only heals him for 2 though. Yeah, only for 2 because of Explosive Runes. It's a good way to clear. Most of the board at least. Gets rid of the Mana Orb. We still have Arcanologist, which does push 1. Or sorry, 2. But it's kind of putting him into a state of equilibrium because we didn't really do anything. Yeah, and he shield blocks it anyway. Or sorry, shield slams it anyways. It's not a big deal though. So here we have 7 mana. How do we best utilize it? Korean Torn Mage. Counter spell is good. That's 3 mana down the drain. Then we can just Frostbolt his face and play a Cabal Crystal Runner. That seems like a decent play. Counter spell is really good because it just messes up his turn.
We have many secrets.
So we just play the secret, play the Crystal Runner, Frostbolt his face. Not only does this make his turn quite awkward because he can't use his weapon, it also means that he's going to have to test something with Brawl, and then even after that he's not even going to want to Brawl because, I mean, it's a 50-50 and both the minions that live are quite strong, so it's just a weird play for him overall. Okay, Bouncing Blade. And then Execute. Okay, Fishes, alright. But it's looking like the 5-1's going to stick though, unless he has a Whirlwind. He does not. Okay, so we have... I mean, we're quite close to Lethal if we're not there, right? 12 plus 5 is 17, so we're a little bit off. Probably going to want to Loathab, Explosive Urns, Cabal Crystal Runner, and go face. Why Loathab? Just to shut him out of his turn. It's pretty important. We can just use the spells next turn. Yeah, I like that. So we go Explosive Urns, Cabal Crystal Runner. Could also use Valet instead, I guess. No, we can't, because if we're playing Loathab, the reason you would do that is because it was 0 mana. Yeah, that's the logic. That's what we do here. Again, similar to Counterspell, it just locks him out of spells, and spells are really what he needs. Kind of curious about what he's playing. It seems like a Fatigue Warrior build, but Bouncing Blades just makes no sense, right? It has to be one of those like fun cards that he's just adding to the deck for no reason. Going face and that Loathab should just shut him out of the game. Bring it on, heal for 10. Yeah, GG dude, GG. And I mean, that right there is just like a true example of the power that you get when you play All-in-Death in your deck. Look at all that damage from hand. Ridiculous. Good game. Legitimately had an OTK there. It's kind of funny. I could have dealt 30 damage right there. And that's why you play All-in-Death and Loathab. You should have saved that for when I'm in the game though, so you can be on YouTube. Okay, got a priest that we get to play against here. I do like double Mana Worm. Really strong start. So I think I'm just gonna keep the 2 Mana Worms. 2 could be overkill, but in general, you know, having a 2-3 and a 1-3 that just snowball on turn 1 is not bad. Hello, Northshire Clerk. No Northshire Clerk, okay. So go Mana Worm, we coin out the second Mana Worm. Really just get that board snowballing right off the start. Obviously we have no spells to follow up with, and the only one we could actually draw and play next turn is Frostbolt. Or a Cabal Lackey plus a counterspell. But this play's still really good. Got 3 power on board, we can contest most of the stuff he has, but Big Priest says Shadow War Pain, he's got other plans for the game. Fortunately we have Arcano Girl though. Draw a card, hit him in the head, and that's a lot of secrets. Counterspell is one that's actually really frustrating for Big Priest to deal with because most of their deck just revolves around playing minions. So if we actually play a Counterspell going into his turn 6, we can Counterspell his Shadow Essence, and that'll delay him 1 turn with his minions. I might actually want to use a Counterspell before that just because you play around Class AoE if you do. here. I mean, Explosive Runes is just dead, I think. It doesn't really do anything. We play around Shadow Word Horror with one of the counter spells, and I think that's going to be our game plan. Because we really need this board to just connect, deal a bunch of damage, and then we need to draw with Arcane Intellect to kind of get some refill going on here. Is exactly what we want to be able to do. Okay, test it with the Lash, give Powers of Face, and we can be almost certain that he's playing Big Priest now. Frostbolt's not bad. I do think that I counterspell again because he will be running double Excavated Evil. And again, if this board sticks and just pushes a little bit more damage, like if it sticks till next turn, I don't feel like I'm going to win the game, but then I have another 10 power on board. Assuming I use another spell, 11 if I use 2. And then it looks like we're actually really close to winning. Which is super important. Counterspelling that Greedy Healing Potion is insanely big. It's really meta right now to just be running one of those, and yeah. So just a double counterspell actually seals the game for us already. And that's really the power of Mana Worm, right? Assume that I just kept one and tossed the other one, then he just would have pained it, and then, you know, my 1-drop wouldn't have hit him in the head for 5 turns. Or it would have been 4. Still. Counterspells against Big Priest. Who's Egon, Skittles? Warlock's not that bad. Keeping Corinto Mage is a little bit sketchy because I do want a 1-drop. We only have 3 in the deck and only the Mana Worms are good. Scientist is always good, but I think I am going to keep the Corinto Mage just because it's fairly likely that I do draw a secret, and just getting to play for free is good. Warlock can be good with the right hands. This isn't necessarily that aggressive of a hand though, and that's basically what you want against Warlocks is the hands where you can say, hey, you're going to get polymorphed when you try and play your Void Caller, you're not going to see Witch. With the Potion of Polymorph. It's part of the reason why you know, I looked for one and kept the Corinto Mage, because you want to be able to have the Corinto Mage active for tempo when you do play that. Do get Ice Block though, that's one secret that could become relevant a little bit later on, because what can happen is you can get popped, and then after you get popped, you have an extra turn to throw stuff towards your opponent's face. Because sometimes these Warlocks like to summon ridiculous boards with a 5/5 and like 4 8/8s on turn 4. So in the case that he does that, at least we have one more turn to look at our hand before we, you know, wallow in shame and concede. It's a really good pickup. I think that I will just play Scientist here. Just getting his secrets out is fairly important, I think, especially if it's something like, you know, good old Explosive Runes, and he just taps and passes and uses a coin, and it goes Switch or Void Caller. Then getting the Runes or the Polymorph is really big, because that means is you actually get to deal with, you know, whatever comes out and delay his stupid combo for a little bit longer. Using the coin on turn 3 is actually really weird. It means he's probably playing Tal'Daram. No, coin the Sense Demons. Okay. I don't really see what kind of follow-up would make that worthwhile to do. Because the whole idea of the demons is that you start working on turn 4, and actually, unfortunately, we did get the Explosive Runes from the deck. So with this line of play from him, it's almost always going to activate the Void Caller, which will mean that he will get a Doomguard, Mal'Ganis, or Void Lord next turn. Just unfortunate, but it happens, you know. So we just play the minions and go face. With 2 secrets, he's probably going to play around a counterspell, so he'll likely just play a Void Caller here. And then we can hope it's Mal'Ganis, because that's easy to deal with for us, because we can just Fireball and ping it. Fortunately, on the other side, Void Lord, we almost always have to just direct our damage towards his face. Perfect, that's exactly what we wanted there. So we do still have 9 carryover damage after the Fireball ping next turn. So that's actually a relatively lucky outcome there for us. A little bit too late in the game for Mana Worm to start snowballing, so we're just going to keep holding on to that. We might play it on like turn 7 after we all in on 6, but just go for the Fireball ping here. And clock your opponent in the head for 8. And, or sorry, 9. And say, hey dude, this might be lethal next turn if you don't heal here. And again, he doesn't know if it's Counterspell or not, so if he goes for like a Hellfire play, it's fairly risky for him, because he doesn't know, right? It's much more common for a Counterspell to pop up right here than an Ice Block. It's going to test with the Mortal Coil, then go for the Hellfire. Nope, just a Spellstone, okay. Interesting that he uses it on the Apprentice over the Corinto Mage. I'm not really sure what combinations of cards I could be cheating out here that would be beneficial and worth more than removing 1 health. Even with the thought of like a Defile setup, it's better to have the Sorcerer's Apprentice on board than Corintor Mage. So I kind of don't really see how that could be a good play, really. Because he's still dead on board, right? Like, say this was a Fireball draw, like number 2, he would still be dead here, right? We got 6 on board, 6 from hand in the ping. So I don't know if I really agree with that line of play there from him. But yeah, sorry for ripping that. That was pretty BM. Very, very unnecessary to wait 40 seconds to play Alleneth. Lothab for him, unless he has Dark Pact, is unfortunately lethal. Okay, so he does have the Dark Pact, but that means we can go wide here. If you guys want to see something cool, this does work, this combo. So you gotta do that, and your counterspell is now 0. It's really funny. That's one way to beat Lothab with Corintor Mage or Cabal Lackey. It's kind of sweet. And then we're just gonna Valet, ping his face, and go face. I don't value playing the Mana Orb, just want to go in here. Put him at 5, we're 1 off next turn with just a Torch. Pick up the second Torch, it's gonna be lethal unless he heals a ton here. And I personally don't see him doing that. I do not see him healing a lot. Yeah, Reno could work, but he's playing the Naga Giant Select deck. He's not playing Reno. It'd be kind of cool if he was playing Reno Warlock, but unfortunately we don't get to queue into too many players who play cool decks in Wild Ladder. Most of the time, they're fellow meta slaves playing the Naga Warlock deck because it's pretty strong. But yeah, good game, and it's a fast victory. Alleneth is good in this deck.